Nicolymoony. I decided to play through the entire Dragonage franchise on stream, starting with Dragonage Origins. After almost 100 hours in a full playthrough, here are my thoughts. Before this, I had only played Inquisition and the Veilguard, so this was my first time ever playing Dragonage Origins. Since Inquisition ended up becoming one of my favorite games and I'd heard great things about Origins, I decided it was finally time to play the game and its main DLCs. For a game that came out in 2009, I think the visuals and cutscenes are still pretty good. Sure, they might look outdated to some people today, but the dark fantasy vibe and gloomy atmosphere give the game a lot of charm and honestly it feels really nostalgic. I felt that for its time, the game had really good facial customization, especially with the ability to sculpt your character's face. I also really liked the portrait customization and the option to choose different facial expressions. I love the Origins background as well, and I think they make the game feel really unique. In this game, you can play as a human, elf, or dwarf, but not as a Qunari. You can also choose to be a warrior, rogue, or mage. The elves look a bit too similar to humans here, but aside from that, I think the character creator is pretty solid. The main story is honestly amazing. The Origins backgrounds alone make every playthrough feel different, giving you unique beginnings depending on your race and class. The game is packed with choices, consequences, and branching paths. The game frequently forces you to choose sides, giving it a lot of replayability. It really feels like a classic RPG. There are also a lot of really good and interesting side quests, like reuniting couples and families, exploring haunted places, or saving people from demon possession. Of course, there are still some fetch quests, especially the ones from the Chanter's boards that sometimes just have delivering items, which I personally found less interesting. Some quests can also be a bit difficult to track, and at times it's not always clear where you're supposed to go. The exploration in this game feels quite different from other games I've played. You use a world map to travel between locations in Ferelden, and you'll be doing that a lot. Sometimes, while traveling from one place to another, you can randomly trigger special encounters on the road, and this can include events or companion-related moments depending on who's in your party. Once you arrive at a location, you can then explore the hub areas more freely. The writing is really good. Not only does it have an amazing story, but I also love the humor. It's used in just the right amount while it's still keeping the game grounded and dark, and it takes the more tense moments seriously. I also really appreciate the main dialogue options, which add a lot more to the role-playing. I feel like the characters have a good level of detail and look great for a game from that time. They also fit the game's dark fantasy theme really well, and I really like some of their outfits. It uses a real-time with spells combat system, which is something some people will either love or not enjoy as much. For me, I sometimes felt like my character's movement was a bit slow. The difficulty also spikes in some areas. Early on, potions can be a bit hard to come by, so having a healer in your party is really helpful. Your character can also get injured and needs injury kits to be fully effective in combat again. What I also really like it is that some spells have synergy and can combine with each other, so you're encouraged to experiment and test different combinations. The game also has a tactics system that lets you automate how your companions behave. Overall, I found the combat a bit more challenging compared to other Dragon Age games, and it really encourages more pausing, planning, and strategy. I really like the companions in this game. Some I already knew from Inquisition, like Liliana and Morrigan, while Shale was a pleasant surprise and became one of my favorites. I felt that some companion quests were fairly simple and quick, while others, like Morrigan's, were really interesting and more memorable. I also like how you can learn the specializations with your companions. The gift system also makes the approval system feel less punishing, since even if companions disagree with your choices, you can still give them gifts to raise their approval again. But at the same time, it can also make the consequences of upsetting them feel a bit less impactful. I also really enjoy the cutscenes and the reactions when you give them gifts relating to them. I find the romance system really advanced for a game from that time. Some romances are locked by gender, and if you try to flirt with multiple companions, it can lead to conflict. I really enjoyed the romance scenes with Liliana. I really love the theme of being a Grey Warden fighting the Blight and the game's dark fantasy atmosphere. I also like how dark and intense the story can get at times. The DLCs for this game are generally simple and quick, except for Awakening, which is more of a full expansion. Warden's Keep was one of my favorite DLCs. I really like the features it adds to the game. I also really enjoy the Stone Prisoner, since it adds one of my favorite companions. Awakening is my overall favorite, as it adds a whole new experience. You can transfer your character and go through an entire new story with new companions. I really love the main theme in this game, as well as Liliana's song. The soundtrack is really distinctive, and like the other Dragon Age games, it has a very recognizable sound that feels unique to the franchise. I played this game completely without mods, just the vanilla version, and I ran into quite a few crashes and glitches. In several cutscenes and certain areas, like the Kokari Wilds, it was really difficult to keep playing. Sometimes it would also crash when traveling to a new location. In some areas, the map textures would get completely glitchy, and even taking screenshots would occasionally crash the game. I also couldn't finish the last 20 minutes of the Witch Hunt DLC on stream because I spent 40 minutes dealing with constant crashes and could barely progress, so I had to finish off stream. Sometimes lowering the graphics settings helped, but not always. I even had a side quest I couldn't complete because of a bug. Since it's an older game, issues like this can happen on modern systems, and many people recommend using mods to fix these problems. One thing I really wish was improved is backpack space, because I often felt like I ran out of space. I also wish there was more variety when it comes to ropes and staffs. There are fewer fashion options overall, although that's understandable for an older game. I also felt that the Qunari and elves looked really similar to humans appearance-wise compared to other Dragon Age games. I really wish there was an option to hide your helmets and that the base game included a chest or storage system in the camp too. If you like dark fantasy games and classic RPGs with choices and consequences, an incredible story and characters, strong replayability, strategic combats, and you don't mind it being an older game with some performance issues or possibly needing mods to fix it, then I definitely recommend trying Dragon Age Origins in 2026. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe. It means the moon to me. Bye bye!